Perhaps you've heard it before. I'll say it again. Denial is not just a river in Egypt. Are you familiar with the psychological role of denial in the lives of human beings? Elizabeth Kubler-Ross suggests that when a person learns of his or her own terminal illness, if the doctor gives you some really tragic news, your first response, you're going to go through various stages, but the first one is going to be denial. What? How can that be? This can't be true. This can't happen to me. As a nation, we're passing through a time of deep neurosis, a time of deep denial. And it has led now to the deaths of 455,893 sisters and brothers as of the recording of this Mass. Masks. A year ago, don't know about you, but I didn't even own a mask. Masks have become symbols during this year. For some, symbols of how we love and want to protect others from us. For others, especially those in denial, we're not in the middle of a pandemic. It's meant quite something else. Those who have COVID today are being treated like lepers. In today's gospel, we have the story of a leper who comes to Jesus. Lord, if you will, you could cleanse me. You could cleanse me right now and make me clean, Lord. It was daring for him to approach Jesus because lepers had to be kept apart, like those COVID patients in the COVID wards of our hospitals and now of the field hospital that is the Austin Convention Center. Get them away from us so that they don't contaminate us. And what a tragic end-of-life situation it has caused for so many. Here in this parish, we've lived through it. We've lived through it with Deacon John and Father Livardo, being in the hospital where none of us can see them or speak with them or visit them. Lepers outside the city. Yikes. The idea of leprosy, Hansen's disease. In the ancient world, we knew that it was something that you could spread from one person to another. So when one person got it, through a blotch on the skin, through something that didn't quite look right, you had to go to the priest, yikes to me, who had to determine whether you could stay or whether you had to go. We all know the history of Hawaii, the leper colony that was in Molokai. Get them out of here. I suspect that today's readings cause us to reflect on the lepers in our lives. Who are the people that you judge? Good for you. Some of those people can stay. But isn't it true that if we were all honest, there are some people that we have a little less time and patience for? That we're like, get out of here. Ain't got time for you. Brothers and sisters, in today's gospel, we see Jesus responding in a certain way to the lepers of his day. Not just the leper in today's gospel, the one with leprosy, with Hansen's disease, but to all of those who were marginalized because of their mental or emotional physical illness. They were possessed by demons, we believe, back then. He went out to them and brought them healing and health. When everyone else pushed them away, Jesus didn't. Jesus pulled them in. What dynamic do you have playing out in your life? Who are you pulling in? Who are you pushing away? Maybe it's time for us to reflect on that this week. During this pandemic, when we find ourselves separating ourselves from one another by things like masks. In today's first reading, we hear how it is that lepers had to do something different. They had to distinguish themselves so that we'd be careful around them. They disheveled their hair and they muffled their beards. They wore ripped clothing and they rang a bell when we got near them saying, "Unclean, unclean, don't come near me." I suspect that's why many of us hesitate and hate wearing masks, not because it makes it difficult sometimes to breathe, but because of the symbolism of it. Stay away from me. Be careful with me. I could be unclean. Sisters and brothers, in today's second reading, Paul was one who reached out to others. He decided, if I'm going to take this message of Jesus seriously, I can't just love those that I like. I have to love all people, including the Gentiles, the non-Jews of Greece. In his second letter to the Corinthians in Corinth, Greece, he's writing to the people about God's love. And he's saying, be imitators of me as I imitate Christ. Sisters and brothers, how well are we doing of imitating Paul and or of imitating Christ in our lives? Are we opening our hearts to the lepers around us, to those who feel marginalized in some way, in a society that doesn't treat all people equally, that sometimes pushes people away because of their gender, or of their gender identity, or of their sexuality, or of their race or ethnicity, or of their religion? The pandemic is more than physical. We're passing through a pandemic of great inequities. Sisters and brothers, this week, let's open our eyes, let's open our ears, let's open our hearts, and let's start being like Jesus. Amen. Jesus was one who reached out to all people. Paul decided, I'm going to reach out to all people and love them despite what they look like, despite how they act. Let's find ways to see Christ in them and to imitate Christ